Ano ay kialoha ka ko. Thank you for joining us today. Before we formally begin, I just wanted to give a sincere mahalo to Olelo, who has been providing live streaming for all of our bill signings for this bill signing season. So on behalf of the Office of the Governor, we wanted to mahalo them for their efforts in ensuring that the public can access these really critically important pieces of our government. This afternoon, Governor Josh Green will sign a bill that will establish funding for nonprofits. Facilitated questions and answers with media will follow promptly after remarks conclude, with the formal bill signing commencing shortly thereafter. Without further ado, it is my honor to welcome Governor Josh Green.
Okay, aloha. This is the 1,000th bill signing of the session. And last, look, we're just grateful to everyone for sticking with us through this process. I'm particularly thankful to the legislative leaders that are here with us today. This session was challenging because as we went through what our financial needs are for our people, there were some pretty large uncertainties, and they remain. The federal government is going through their own speed bumps. I guess that's the nicest way to put it. I have deep concerns about the large tax breaks that are going in for the very wealthy while resources are being cut for our safety net. We knew this was coming. We anticipated it. The legislative leaders and the champions of this bill anticipated it, and that is why today we are coming together to sign Senate Bill 933. Now let's take a look at what this bill is. This bill is meant to demonstrate a full commitment to our state's nonprofits. Now, as we see resources threatened in our safety net space, we know that there are people out there in Hawaii that step up. And so we reached out to the Aloha United Way, who we have the greatest respect for, and we said there could be disruptions in care for our people. There could be more people that are hungry. There could be people that lose their social services as the federal government implements the new bill that they passed. So we better be nimble. Now, the legislature had already decided to spend $30 million on grants and aid. These go to our most caring organizations. But that wouldn't likely be enough if we saw the bill pass as it did. And this is what you're going to see now. So this bill establishes funding for the nonprofits to the tune of $50 million in fiscal year 26. It authorizes our Office of Community Services in the DIL, Department of Labor, to award and distribute the grants. That's how we do it with our grants and aid. So it establishes an evaluation and selection committee. Essentially, it's an extension of what we do during the session. But as you know, in the 7 months where we are not in session, we will deal with what happens with the federal government's cuts. We'll deal with restrictions of funds. And this will give us the capacity through the Aloha United Way to distribute $50 million. It also, it kind of acknowledges that these organizations are the heartbeat of our community. They're quiet and consistently standing in when we have crises, like when we had the wildfire and there were a lot more people that were desperate with mental health needs or getting housing. These are the organizations that do that work, that make sure that we connect people to services. It's essentially healthcare, housing support, food security, childcare, and emergency relief. Those are the categories that you will most often see. This legislation reflects our true belief that we should, as government, share in the responsibility when people are having their toughest times. And this sustains a lot of the workforce because we have case managers, we have social workers, we have educators, everyone involved in these organizations. And if they don't have enough resources, the safety net dissolves because then people can't find their way to the necessary resources. All of this is in partnership with parts of our government, especially the Department of Human Services. That's an area of strength to help our safety net. But as it sees less funds in the coming years, we're going to have to be careful to not turn our backs on our people. So I'm going to have, in a moment, Senator Hashimoto, Representative Holt, and Kayla Ke'ehu Alexander come up and speak. But again, I want to say this. In the coming years, as you see extra downward pressure on our resources from the federal side, we're going to step up. We still have rainy day resources, which we will collaborate with the legislature if we reach true crisis. We have the capacity to look at how much money we bring in and make sure that the essential services go to those who are struggling the most. And finally, I'm in constant negotiation to make sure that even though we have some deep philosophical differences with the current federal administration, that they put in pieces of funding that can help us get through this period. And an example of that is the rural health funds that amount to $50 billion that are going to go into all of our states over the next 5 years. I'll be helping to guide that process, and I'll make sure that these dollars come into the space of rural health care and our people's needs. So all these pieces do come together, and we'll get through it. It's just not going to be quite as simple and straightforward as we had hoped. Again, many thanks for this $50 million appropriation to go to those who will care for our people the best. Aloha.
Mahalo, Governor Green. Next, we'd like to welcome Senator Troy Hashimoto, Assistant Majority Whip.
Good afternoon. I'm so glad to be here for this bill signing. You know, I think there's been many great bills passed this past legislative session, but I think this one really is a big one. I think, you know, when this legislative session started to happen and, you know, all the things happened throughout the federal level, I think a lot of us were nervous. And I think, at least on the Senate side, we wanted to give more than $30 million to the nonprofits. But when we started to see what was happening at the federal level, we kind of knew that it was going to throw everyone off, because a lot of the nonprofits would not know what their budget outlook would look like. And so I think there was a concerted effort to make sure that we found space in the budget and it's a big number, it's $50 million, to allow nonprofits the ability to, once they understand what's going on with their federal funds, we have another pathway to ensure that they can continue programming. And it's always said that your budget really shows where your priorities are. And I think it shows that we feel that nonprofits throughout our community are truly making an impact. And we really want you to continue that despite the hardships that may come. One of the big things about this funding is that you have to show that you have had some type of federal impact. And because we know that it likely will be great. And so we have to all work together to figure out in a more efficient way how to keep our community going. Now, there is a few thank yous that I have to say, because this bill was, it was given to me at the very end of session to go through the negotiation process through the conference period, and they told me it was going to be an easy bill. But when we started to look at it, it actually kind of got complicated. And that's when we brought in the Office of Community Services. And so, I know Director Butai is not here, but he got a random call kind of late in conference asking, hey, can Office of Community Services help with this? We already had Aloha United Way on board with the help of the governor and lieutenant governor. But we needed some state agencies to take this on. And I think the response from DLIR was like, $50 million? What do you mean? You only usually give out 30 and you give us another 50. So thank you for taking this big task on. And making sure that we will take care of our nonprofit community. We also do want to, again, a big thank you to the Lieutenant Governor for all of her help. I think she did a lot of negotiating, even the Gov's office. We were making calls to your office, Governor, to make sure that we could legally do this, because there is some complications. But I think at the end, the bill will follow the 42F law in spirit. And so, I think a lot of it was thought out through this process to make sure that we can keep our community's needs at the forefront. And so I'm so happy to be with you, Gov, to sign this into law. And, hopefully I think this will go a long way for our community. So thank you.
Mahalo, Senator Hashimoto. Now please welcome Representative Daniel Holt, Chair of the House Committee on Legislative Management.
Aloha kako. It's an honor to be here today for the signing of House Bill 933. Thank you to the Governor and to all of my colleagues in the House and the Senate. As Senator Hashimoto has kind of highlighted, it was a difficult process to the end to get to this point, or the final version of our bill, but at the basis, this is a very simple bill. We saw a hole, a puka that was going to possibly pop up from the federal government funding, and we knew that we were going to have to address it. So although it did take some creativity at the end, it's very simply trying to cover, some of our most, our hardworking community members out there who are doing the hard work on the ground, and, they're facing some uncertainty. So this measure is hoping to give some, give some relief to those out there who are facing federal cuts and the effects of those federal cuts. House Bill 933 will provide short-term financial relief to nonprofits across our state. And, I'm sure we all know many nonprofits who are doing great work across the state, from the healthcare community to, just small nonprofits out there. I know currently right now, I just want to give a shout out to my kids at the Palama Pathways program who are waiting for me to get back. But, there are little programs across the state, all over our islands, and they need these funds. I want to thank Aloha United Way, who has the expertise in our community, and they're going to play a big part in helping us administer these funds. Their capacity and their connection to our community is very instrumental as we implement the law and, ensure that the goals are met. I mentioned the many nonprofits. It's hard to keep track of all of them, and I just want to thank HANO, Hawaii Alliance of Nonprofit Organizations, for kind of keeping a pulse on where everybody's at and making sure that nobody falls through the cracks and making sure that everybody's updates are reaching us here at the legislature. And, just final mahalo again to Governor Green and my colleagues in the House and Senate. This is what happens when we work together and when government listens and leads with intention. So let's continue to build on this together. Thank you.
Mahalo, Representative Holt. Up next, and our final speaker today, please welcome Aloha United Way's Vice President of Community Impact, Kayla Ke'ehu Alexander.
Aloha mai kako. This has been a turbulent year for Hawaii's nonprofits, who have been navigating through precarious waters for the last 6 months. Our local nonprofits, yes, they are a safety net. They are also a pillar of our community, helping those in need access things like food, shelter, healthcare, mental health services. They even help families gain financial stability and get the tools they need to build a better future here. For generations, our community-based organizations have stood side by side our local families. And yet these organizations are often expected to do more with less. They stretch every dollar, every volunteer hour, every ounce of aloha that they have, regardless of what may come their way. And that is why this bill is so critical. Nationally, we are seeing a pullback of federal investments into community-based work. But today, Hawaii is making it clear. Our nonprofits matter, and our community will not be left behind. Our state is stepping up to invest in the sector that has always invested in us. This is a powerful acknowledgement that our nonprofits deserve the same kind of stability that they offer our community every single day. So a heartfelt mahalo goes out to Governor Green, Lieutenant Governor Luke, the representatives who made this possible. We are deeply appreciative of the commitment and the urgency that you all took to help our local nonprofits and our community at large. Mahalo.
So the process begins pretty much at the signing of the bill, and the legislators are ready and willing to form their subcommittee and to assess, I guess, all of the requests. We will expedite, as our team always does, the delivery of funds because we know that there's an urgency here. In fact, this bill is about urgency. So historically, there had been times where we went 6, 8 months or even longer to get grants and aid out. We've actually taken the opposite approach. We try to push them out immediately when the legislature has vetted any of the requests. So that's going to be our process, to go forward quite quickly. I will say also that it was very important to get Aloha United Way involved with our Department of Labor, because they already have worked together a lot on this kind of process. One additional comment I wanted to make is mahalo over to the Benioff family. They offered an additional $1 million to help us with admin costs and the ability to expedite the delivery of these funds. So that was all very helpful. So everyone got on the same page for this. This is a big win for our community, because people will not have to wait for the resources if they're struggling.
Mahalo, Governor. As a quick follow-up from Andrew, he'd also like to ask, when will grant selection committee members be appointed? He believes 2 House members named by the House Speaker and 2 senators named by the Senate President.
Yeah, I would expect they'll give me those names this month, and I will, happily approve them. I have no reservations about any of our colleagues, so I'm looking forward to that. I think you can expect some of the people that are sitting right with us today to be members of that committee. My team is also ready to meet with them whenever there's additional work that needs to be done to provide some administrative support. We do know that there are a lot of organizations that have seen some pretty significant threats to their resources. Food Bank is one. Okay, that's just to name one of many. And we are actively, seeking extra resources from the community. So please look at this as an opportunity if you're out there and you want to be supportive of our safety net and, as it was stated very nicely, the pillars of our community. This $50 million will help a lot, but it won't take care of all of our needs. So please continue, everyone in Hawaii, to be generous as you see people in your community struggle.
Mahalo, Governor. We have Ashley with Hawaii Public Radio.
Hi, Governor. So there have been some constitutional concerns raised about this measure, particularly that it's not going to be, this committee that's being established is not going to be subject to Sunshine Law, when in the Constitution, legislative committees do need to have open meetings. Can you talk a little bit about that? And also another one has been raised about this being a little irregular as opposed to doing grants and aid, and why we wouldn't go through the process, an open, public process with these grants.
Sure. Well, I think it was already pretty eloquently described. We saw the administration's bill pass just a couple days ago. It was signed on July 4th, which came 2 months after the legislature. And we had the foresight, actually, to set this up. We couldn't possibly do this in a short special session. So I think it's necessary to acknowledge the foresight. I also want to say very directly, I'm pretty darn tired of the haters out there. For example, Mr. Hoosier, who sends out emails bashing the good work of senators and representatives when they're really trying to help people. There's some out there that will do anything to rain on the real needs of people, and they suggest that it's a constitutional question, when in reality, it's just because they aren't getting their own time in the sunlight. When these good people are trying to actually bring $50 million to the organizations that struggle year in and year out. I find it very disturbing that we have that kind of perpetual drumbeat just attacking anything when good work is being done. And, I think if we do see lawsuits against this bill, it would be pretty cynical, because these $50 million are going to ultimately go to people who are hungry, people who are suffering from domestic violence, people who are losing their health care coverage, people who don't have a health center available to them. And so I know that people love to toss emails out and to try to create some controversy, but to tell you the truth, I won't have it. I think we have to help people, and I think it's very important that we call it for what it is, which is cynical, ugly behavior. And I will again commend the legislature for finding the foresight to get monies out there when the legislative actions at the federal level are going to hurt us, and they're going to keep going. We do not have a 12-month legislature. We have to actually be out ahead of things, and that's why you have an administration that's going to meet day in and day out with these people. Well, we have so many public meetings. We already had hundreds of hours of hearings, and those are the very organizations that I'm sure are going to be reapplying and applying for extra resources. We don't have the capacity to be in session constantly. And I think that people have asked us to tie up our work in the first 100 days of the year. But there will be transparency about all of these requests. So that's never been a problem with our administration. That's just, of course, a cynical kind of diversion. This has been, as far as I can tell, the most transparent administration in decades because we constantly put things out. We just do it in real time. And if you want to get action, you want to get resources out and do it in real time, you have to be deliberate. You know, we came in at the beginning of this term, and there were $50 million of grants and aid that had been sitting for the better part of a year, and we did it within, I think it was a week, to get those monies out. So sometimes you just have to take action, and everyone's going to know exactly where these grants go, and it's going to be to the, you know, the best intended organizations in our state.
Mahalo, Governor and Ashley. Final question coming from KHON2. Okay, there are no more questions. So at this time, we're going to request all elected officials, key stakeholders, community advocates to join the governor for the formal bill signing.
Okay, come then. Don't push down the seal.
So again, just a great honor to sign this bill, Senate Bill 933, which appropriates $50 million in grants and aid through a process that will help those who have the greatest needs in our community. It's a reflection of the foresight that the legislature had, knowing that there were going to be federal cuts. And so this is really going to help keep our state together.
Mahalo, this formally concludes our final bill signing of the season. Mahalo and e malama.
Good job, good job.